Hello, a very good morning to all students. Hope how you are at your home. You all are good, isn't it? So today what we are going to study that in the last lecture, in yesterday's lecture, we have just completed the small intestine. That is in how the digestion takes place in small intestine and a taste for the just starch. Clear? Now what we have to do today, we are going to read out about the other three processes. I have told you that the absorption, assimilation and digestion. So in today's topic, our what is the condition? Absorption, assimilation and digestion. These three topics are left for our chapter to be completed that we are going to deal today. So just open your books, page on to number 21, and I'm just going through the book so that you can understand. Now what? After digestion, absorption of food, the topic I have said you this one. Now after digestion, the molecules of food becomes so small that they can pass through the walls of small intestine and go into our blood. You know very well what happens in small intestine when the in small intestine only the digested food which comes from our mouth that has been just make it soluble, and here the nerves they used to reach the nutrients which are formed with that food, that energy that passes on to our body through our blood system. Okay, so the small intestine is the main reason for the absorption of food. It's a main it's main reason. It's a main reason for the absorption of food, because in this only the nutrients are formed from the foods and just pass into the blood nerve system which get in touch with us. Okay, now what happened next? The inside lining of small intestine is in the form of small finger-like projections called villi. The singular is vellus. So what happens? This vellus, each vellus contains, it's a finger-like projection. You know the word finger-like projections first we have already used it somewhere else. That is the symbol-like projections like in pseudopodia in amoeba. That is the same thing in our body also. Some small, we can say, this is a network of fine blood capillaries close to the surface. That from the body is just close to the surface means in our body so many large intestine, small intestine, stomach, nearby this liver, bladder, pancreas, all are there. Beside this is a capillaries of we can say blood capillaries form, which what happens, what are the functions to do that? Here the increase the surface area for the absorption of food. So here the absorption of food nutrients which are created by created in large intestine, they are absorbed by the vellus. Now the digested food which is absorbed through the walls of this small intestine then gets carried to each part of the body through blood for further utilization and store. So what happened? The food at a time we are taking, they are not totally used at once. So we used to store them also. So day by day, because in daily basis you work deliberately. So at that time you have to work hard, and in that used to store also. Some is utilized by our body and others are stored. So okay, it's a last, we can say that the villus has a network of fine blood capillaries just beside onto the surface of small intestine. Next what comes is assimilation. Now what happens when this all the nutrients used to pass by this blood capillaries? So now what happened? The simple substances are transported to the cell of the body. Okay, glucose is broken down. Glucose is broken down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water, and energy is released. Clear? Now the food which we have taken from that nutrients which are absorbed, out of that glucose is broken down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water. That you have already studied, isn't it? In photosynthesis process of photosynthesis, what happened? CO2 plus H2O that releases C6H12O6 plus oxygen, and in body what happened? If we are taking oxygen, so what happened? You used to take oxygen from outside, so glucose from the food, when they interact with oxygen, they used to release some water and carbon dioxide to our body. Okay, now what happened? This energy is utilized by the body for various activities, and amino acids are used to build new cells and repair the worn out cells and tissues. Fatty acids and glycerol are broken down to produce energy, and excess amount is stored under the skin as reserve. Now in this assimilation, what happens? You know that in small intestine, when we have studied, what we have did, that some carbohydrates are broken down into simpler sugars like glucose. That glucose also broken down into when reaction with oxygen, they broke down into carbon dioxide and water that is utilized by our body. Same here, the fats converted into fatty acids and glycerol that is also used by our body. Next, the proteins which we have taken from through our body is changed into amino acids, and they are also used to build up the cells or the repair to worn out tissues and cells. Okay, so in assimilation, what happens? Those which are broken down into other nutrients, they are used in other forms for the utilization of our body. Now the next and last topic is digestion, being steps in nutrition. So what happened in digestion? Large intestine, the word comes large intestine. What is the function of large intestine? What is the work of intestine in our body? So large intestine. Now what the word large intestine do? Let's come and study for this. Large intestine. Large intestine is about 1.5 meter long. It's 1.5 meter long in our body. Okay. The undigested food that we call the waste of our body, when moves through the small intestine, how much nutrients it's produced or absorbed by that small intestine is used up by the body, but the remaining, which is undigested, as we call it waste, it's just move into the large intestine. And here what happens? The large intestine removes most of the water and certain salts from the waste by absorption. So in this also, mainly the main reason of absorption is small intestine. But what happened? From the waste also, water, some salts has been absorbed in large intestine, and somewhere it is used in the body itself. So the almost solid wet waste is then released or sent to the rectum. This wet solid waste is called feces, leaves the body through anus from time to time by a process called defecation. The word defecation I have already made you understand, isn't it? That what it does, it is the last stage as from our body to get rid of the solid waste, usually from the time to time. So the digestion process is actually depends upon the what the solid waste is going through out of our body on the daily basis. Okay. So now we have completed 3 topics today: absorption, assimilation and digestion. So I hope till now you have understood here. Now after this we are going to do some self-check questions given on to page number 23. In this, what you will have to do, I am not going to write the whole sentence. In your book, I am going to dictate you the answers that you have to do. Now the question is, write the correct word in place of underlined words to make the statement true. That means in number 1, what is the underlined word? It's a small intestine, isn't it? Small intestine. Now what you have to do? According to the given question, you have to write the correct word, underlined words. That is, the small intestine is just marked with this one red, isn't it? With a red. So instead of, according to the statement, what should be the right answer? Now let's start with the number 1. The partly digested food in the small intestine is called chyme. Now you can understand, just now we have learned about that the small intestine is the main portion for the absorption of food. So partly digestion is not done there, and while just reciting that we can say section digestion, we have just read out that the undigested or undigested, we can say, waste has been transferred to large intestine, and there partly out of that undigested food, salts and some water used to be absorbed over there. So where it happens, instead of small intestine, it happens to large intestine. So the answer will be large intestine. Clear? Number second is, bile is stored in a sac-like structures called stomach. Is it true? No. The word stomach, the sum in place of stomach, what will be the answer? We have just studied in the last section, that was gallbladder. So gallbladder is the right answer. Number 3. Omasum is the largest chamber of the stomach of ruminants. That we are going to read in our last lecture, but I am just going to write the right answer. So instead of omasum, it will be rumen. It will be rumen. Instead of omasum, the answer will be rumen. Okay. Number 4 is, proteins are digested by humans in cecum. So is it so? No, proteins are digested in small intestine. So it's not cecum, it's small intestine. The answer will be small intestine. Okay, number 5 is, phosphate in frog are called pseudopodium. No, instead of frog it will be what? You all know about the answer. It's amoeba. The phosphate in amoeba is called pseudopodium. So now we have completed the self-check questions. So now what you have to do? First you have to write the full sentence, underline the word which is highlighted, and the right answer will be just below the line. Okay. So have you all got understood what you have to do? Go through your lecture properly and complete the self-check questions that we have done today in our lecture. Okay. Try to complete your work. Okay. Thank you for today. Have a nice day.